So I'm going to show you how I put together this activity booklet. I have printed it out on 2 sheets of cardstock, 8.5 by 11 or letter size cardstock on my home inkjet printer. I did print these double-sided. You can use a double-sided printer that automatically goes back and forth, or you can reinsert them manually. So now I am going to fold these 2 sheets in half so that I can put the booklet together. So I'm simply just lining up the edges, and then I am going to press down really neatly and gently, and then I'm going to use an old identification card or a credit card or a gift card to gently just make the seam just lie down flatter so that it's more like a professional booklet. And I'm going to do this to the other page as well. Now note, I did use cardstock when I printed these out. It just gives it a little bit of weight. I could use regular paper, but it would be very thin and kind of floppy, so I do suggest using cardstock. So once you finish folding, you can just put the pages together in the correct order and then kind of see how your booklet looks when you flip through it before you actually bind it together using staples or thread. Stapling your booklet together is definitely the easiest option. You're going to want to have a piece of cardboard. I used the back of a drawing notebook here. And you're going to lay it flat, lay your booklet flat down on that cardboard, and then open up your stapler, and you're going to staple directly in the middle of the seam there at the top and the bottom. Now, I happen to only have a stapler that does not open wide in this case, so it wasn't large enough to fit. I could not find my one that I usually use. Of course, I found it as soon as I finished this video, but you can also sew a binding on your booklet fairly easily if you don't have a stapler lying around. You're going to need embroidery floss, a needle, a ruler, some kind of marking tool like a pencil, scissors. And you're just going to lay it flat where you can mark on the inside seam of your pages where you're going to poke holes with a needle. So I am going to mark 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom. And then right in the center, as I measured it out, at the 4.25 inch mark in the center, you're going to mark 2 holes right before and right after. Because you're going to go inside and out just so you can create an even threading on the outside of the page. I'm going to do this on the second page as well, even though I'm just going to really poke the holes together. Now note, I am not a sew binding expert. I've done it a few times, but I'm just kind of, making it up as I go along here. Now I'm going to lay my pages down on my cardboard again, and I'm going to use my embroidery needle to poke holes at those spots I just marked straight through. And it shouldn't take very much force. You just want to have the holes pre-drilled for yourself so it makes it a little easier when you start sewing. So at this point, I should have 4 holes drilled, 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and 2 near the center. At this point, I am going to choose the embroidery floss color that I want to use. So I just kind of lay them down and decide. I had a few just lying around. I would probably get purple to match if I've been planning on sewing this from the beginning. So I'm going to use this dark gray, and then I'm going to thread my needle. I give myself some extra just in case. I do about double what the book length is. And I'm just going to thread through the needle. And then I am going to tie off the end so that it doesn't fall through or pull through when I am sewing, because then I would have to start my work over again. So I'm just going to do a simple double knot here. And I'm going to start sewing from the inside to the outside. So I am going to weave the thread outside to in through all of the holes around the outside. And then I am going to sew the inside as well, up through the middle. And then on that last mark, I am going to tie off the excess at the end tightly on the inside, and then cut off any extra thread that remains. Another thing you could do is if you had a sewing machine, you could simply just sew a straight stitch right up the seam at the end, let that be your binding as well, and that is super fast, maybe 30 seconds if you already have your sewing machine loaded with thread. But all in all, this sewn binding took me 3 to 5 minutes. Super easy, looks great, kind of traditional. Overall, I think this little booklet is a great way to engage your players while they are waiting for their turn at the table. I'm excited to try it out with mine.